Follow that.
Okay, we're ready for a new session here. So we're going to start this evening with the Finance and Personnel Committee, who needs to take a little time and explain some things to us. So who is it that's going to talk to us? Ms. Nisley?
And I think Mr. Patterson about the fire truck too. Thank
Okay.
you, Mr. President. Yes, normally we would have on our second and fourth Mondays of the month, we'd have committee meetings, and since the last fourth Monday of the month that we met was July, right now we have some legislation that we do need to introduce tonight, and in fact some of it we'll be needing to probably suspend and pass due to some pressing issues for funding and moving along with projects for the city. So we'll go through those tonight first in the committee session with some of the explanation, and then we'll have a little bit further additional explanation as needed when we actually read the amendment for the first time. The first item is the Richland South project, and many of us on council and citizens in Athens have heard of our comprehensive project, and it's aimed at improving pedestrian and traffic safety on Athens' south side. This involves upgrades to our water, sewer, utility lines, the curbs, sidewalks, bike lanes, and lighting for the area. And the region of Richland Avenue stretches from the roundabout down to Canterbury, where the C&E grocery store is. Some of the first plans began for it back in 2009, so the city has been working on it for quite some time. Our Public Works office has done a lot of work in the planning, preparation, design, engineering of this, and we're now ready to proceed forward. What we'll have tonight is an ordinance that does allocate some additional monies towards the project. This is a $4.8 million project. We have approximately $400,000 in additional expenses tonight, so less than 10% of the total project cost. And so what that ordinance will be doing is doing some appropriations of the money, authorization for it to be spent in certain accounts, and then transfers between different accounts to make sure we have adequate funds and resources for this. The reason we will be suspending tonight, and I'll also explain that when we have the first reading of the ordinance, is that we did have a bid that has been accepted by the city, and we are ready to make the award for that. So the sooner that we can pass this ordinance, then the sooner the city can move along with working with the design or the firm that will be doing the construction.
Remember nicely.
Yes.
Could I just mention that the construction that's been going on Richland South is not the construction we're talking about. It's not anything that the city is doing. It's the various utilities who have lines under the street, and they're preparing for when we do a new street. So it's all going to be torn up again.
Good point, but thank you. And thanks to people in Athens for their patience with this. We know the conditions on the road have been bumpy, but I think what's going to happen at the end of the project is just going to be a great improvement for as much traffic as that area has. Second item has to do with staffing levels. Council members will be looking at tonight and reviewing, and then we'll be asking for suspension on it, an amendment to our staffing levels within the city. And City Council regularly authorizes when there do need to be changes. We saw some earlier this year for staffing levels with police. And right now what we'll be looking at is an authorization for an additional person in the law director's office. The law director did speak with the auditor and the mayor and some of the finance committee members earlier this week to explain this. There is an internship position that is open now and unfilled, so there are funds that are available for that. And there are sufficient funds to be able to pay for that in the law director's account between now and the end of the year. And then the other one is the other ordinance, one of the other ordinances we'll be looking at will be an authorization to purchase salt. And the city does this each year, authorizes the city administration to go ahead and purchase salt in bulk so that we can get the best price possible. And so we'll be looking at an ordinance for that that will allow us to be able to place the order and purchase it, and that money will come out of the 2015 budget, but we'll be authorizing it now to move ahead with it. Fire truck?
I didn't realize we were bringing that forward tonight, so
Do you want me to?
I would let that.
Okay, I will talk a little bit about our fire truck. We have, the city administration has been working with a firm. It is Pierce, with Finley Fire Equipment Company, and we do have the final costs affiliated with that. And as I understand, by moving our ordinance forward, we will be able to obtain the 5% discount, I believe, so that we will have as good a price as we can get on it. Just historically, you might remember that we have replaced our ladder truck, but now this fire truck is very much in need. It's reached its life, and I guess that's based in hours of operation. And so we have an extensive equipment list, along with the last final costs for approximately $9,500 worth of hose and nozzles that need to be, obviously we need that part of the equipment on the pumper truck. So we'll be moving that forward.
Actually, that's not on the agenda tonight. There you go.
That's my mistake.
No, that's okay. At least everybody's
Stay
got a
tuned,
personal
we'll be
answer.
talking further.
I would like to point out, of course, the matting for the playground has to be moved forward as well. I don't think that needs to be suspended. Or how about the TC 100s for the recreation?
That was actually for streets.
Oh,
I
sorry.
mean, if,
Streets,
to
sorry.
stay on topic, regarding the fire truck purchase, it's my understanding there's still discussions about, the loan and the actual financing of it. But we do need to meet this October 1st deadline in order to lock in the discount and keep it at this year's pricing. So.
Okay, yes. And I apologize, that's my error. I knew you were working auditor hecked on loan amounts. And
I should have
I
it Monday.
just got too eager.
It'll be Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next committee meeting.
Yeah, okay.
But also to share, if I can, the fact that, again, a second 5-year agreement has been reached with Ohio University for an additional $250,000 for continuance of getting fire protection equipment, pumper truck, as well as what they did with the ladder truck, their contributions to that as well. So that's great news.
Okay. We done?
I think we're done.
We do have a quorum with all members present tonight. We do have some earlier minutes that we want to approve. Minutes from the regular session held July 21st, and also the special session held July 28th. Could we have a motion to accept those minutes? These two sets of minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Thank you. These minutes are accepted then. We do have some communications this evening. We have a letter from a member of the council, of the city, and it's Mr. Slothorth, who has spoken to us several times before, and we will be placing copies of this letter in the minutes, so anybody who needs to see it can look there. We also have, no, not yet. I'm not going to do this yet. Okay. We'll do communications from other elected officials. Any, Law Director?
No report, Mr. President.
Mayor Weil?
A couple of things. We put a press release out that Park Place will be closed tomorrow and the next day for some repairs on, I believe, Lindley Hall, it says. Although I thought that would be Tupper.
They're going to have a crane in the street.
They're going to have a crane in the street. There you go. So just so
On
everybody
South
knows, the 3rd and 4th for construction purposes. Also, that I received a communication from Paul Logue, our city planner. There's going to be a Essence of Athens planned public kickoff meeting scheduled for the 10th of September. That's next Wednesday at the Athens Community Center at 6 p.m. essentially the OSU person who came down started the design. They'll be discussing it and trying to see how we can implement this whole process. This is actually on the city website, I believe. You can go to our document center, look for Essence of Athens folder. If you have any questions, you always contact the city planner, Paul Logue. Let's see, the Essence of Athens plan document is intended to inspire citizens in our community and people who build our city to clearly define the physical elements that make Athens unique. And you've got your copies already, I believe, so you know what the guidelines are and how we can end up making a lovely city. So, that, as I say, September 10th, 6 p.m. to 7:30 at the community center. I think rooms B and C, and we'll present some more of it. Those are the announcements I have. Oh yeah, the ladder truck is still down too, so we're working on that too.
Okay, Auditor?
I just want to mention that, and I think most of you know, but maybe not all of you, that the current deputy auditor is leaving. Her last day will be Friday. So I have mixed feelings about this announcement. She will be replaced with former deputy auditor Ray Hazlett, who will start Thursday. They'll have a 2-day overlap. So there shouldn't be any issues dealing with my office as we go forward.
You've been,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You've been great.
We're great. Been good.
Yeah.
You do this.
We're going to move on. We do have some ordinances for second reading regarding mostly Halloween. Ordinance 7214, an ordinance banning parking and closing that portion of Court Street from Mulberry to Carpenter on October 25th and 26th, 2014, in anticipation of a large number of people converging on downtown Athens Halloween weekend.
Mr. President, I'd just like to make a quick comment about this. There's been a lot of comments in the news, and I was not in attendance at this meeting when it came up for its first reading, so I wasn't able to say anything. Really all I want to say is we pretty much have it set in stone when it's going to happen, but that planning occur sooner rather than later next year. Apparently there was some impromptu or not formal meetings and maybe obviously some misunderstandings. So I hope that administration, I know OU sets its calendar by March 1st with their events on campus, and we probably just need to try to get with the organizers ahead of time and plan that so there isn't this scurrying around and trying to figure out, at least from other parts of the group, the planning group, what's really going down. So we've had conversations about that, and hopefully next year it'll be a much smoother process. Maybe start planning right after the next one. I don't know.
I think this is every 7 years it's going to be Halloween's going to fall on a certain date, so it's going to be one way or the other when you do Halloween. Otherwise, it's pretty obvious when Halloween happens, and in this once every 7 years or once every 6 years, you have to make a decision, and hopefully maybe in the future when this is about to happen, that's a key to bringing in partners even sooner so that everybody's on board.
We, however, will go on with our ordinance. Ordinance 7314, an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code, Chapter 11.04, vending, peddling, and soliciting, to allow vending in a designated area on October 25th and 26th, 2014, Halloween weekend. Ordinance 7414, an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code, Section 13.04.10, unnecessary noise, for scheduled bandstand performances hosted by the Clean and Safe Halloween Committee on October 25th and 26th, 2014, which is Halloween weekend. Ordinance 7514, an ordinance establishing a glass-free drinking container zone on Court Street and adjoining sidewalks between Union and State on October 25th and 26th, 2014, Halloween weekend. Ordinance 7614, an ordinance closing a portion of Court Street on Monday, October 27th, 2014, from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. for trick or treat hosted by the Athens Uptown Business Association. Any comments on that? A little bit different. Ordinance 7714, an ordinance suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code, Title 7, Section .7.05.26B1, City Garage Metered Parking Rates and Regulations on Monday, October 27th, 2014, for the Athens Uptown Business Association Trick or Treat.
My only other comment was that citywide trick or treat will be Thursday, October 30th.
Okay. Did we all
So
hear
we
that?
get all the Halloweens and
Regular trick or treat in the city of Athens will be Thursday, October 30th.
In an effort of frugality, that's been suggested we combine all three together, but I think that's fine.
On Court Street?
All over citywide.
Let us move on. Now we've got ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 7814, an ordinance amending the 2014 appropriation ordinance introduced by Councilmember Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the mayor mentioned briefly a few moments ago, we do have an ordinance amending our appropriations, and this would be $31,300 for the CDBG, which stands for Community Development Block Grant Revolving Fund, Loan Fund, and this is to purchase playground matting. And so this will finish the project in some of our city parks under the playground equipment.
needs to be spent out for
Did-
50 years. So municipal.
Did I hear you needed to just,
Probably we could do it at the second reading. As far as I know, the timetable's still open for that. I think we were worried about the weather conditions, but I think will be good for September. And again, this is the part two or the sequel to doing the South Side Park. This was the leftover money, and this will be doing the small park area at the community center.
And I might add that on the second section of this appropriation ordinance, we're also decreasing the street fund, the TC 100s, which are the transaction class for personnel, and moving some of that money, the $50,000, or amending the appropriations and placing that down into supplies because of some of the extensive asphalt and road repairs we've had this year. So there's money there, and that will be the appropriation movement.
next one is suspended, 7914? Ordinance 7914, an ordinance amending ordinances 1914 and 3914, the Richland Avenue South Project number 244, authorizing an interfund transfer and declaring an emergency. Member Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend the rules for ordinance 7914.
Second.
And the purpose of suspending is, as explained earlier, so that the city might move forward with awarding the bid for the work to proceed on Richland Avenue.
All those members in favor of suspending the rules on ordinance 7914 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ordinance is suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move adoption of ordinance 7914.
Second?
I will offer a brief explanation moving us through the four sections, major sections of it, without going into every last line of detail. But it actually makes sense to go back to Section 4, if you have that text before you, council members. And very briefly, what this states is that the project, the authorization for this total project is moving from $4,021,748 to $4,885,648. And we actually do have several other small grants that bring the project up to approximately $498,000. So that's the bigger picture. We're increasing the project by a sum and the lines underneath it in the various accounts add up to that new revised total of $4,885,648. And if you go back to Section 1, then what that does is appropriates in several different accounts. And one of them is that we will be appropriating an additional $290,000 to the Street Rehab Fund 572. So that's where you see the number of $470,000 crossed out, and now the new total is $760,000. The other part that changes in that Section 1 as a modification to that earlier ordinance that we passed is that we will be increasing the sewer debt fund from $90,000 to $190,000. So there's an additional $100,000 on the expenses. In Section 2, we're making an interfund transfer, and it's from the sewer debt fund to the sewer fund. And so that money, as it builds up in the sewer debt fund, we transfer it over so that we can pay for the sewer portion of this project. So that's where we're making the transfer between those two accounts. Section 3 then appropriates an additional $100,000. So that's where you see the $90,000 crossed out, the $190,000 put in. And then Section 4, as I described earlier, gives the grand totals on the total project cost.
Mayor Val, do you have your hand up?
Again, this has been a long time coming, as you know. We put it out to bid early this summer and had no takers, so we've had to re-up it. The total, we're in the area about $2.9 million that we've got from outside money sources, so we've leveraged it pretty well as best we can. This does not cover all of Richland, as you well know, but it's a portion that, as I say, from Dairy Lane and roundabout to Canterbury, so we're working on it. It's also functions for the stormwater, sewer, and water, so that's why the funds are being appropriated from those pools of money. And just to point out that that's usually a lot of the infrastructure underneath the street is usually very important, but this is a hard road to fix because of the constraints of right-of-ways, Coates Run, floodplain issues, and the amount of traffic that goes through there. So it's going to be a work in progress, as you say, choreographed with the starting of Columbia Gas and AEP started early in anticipation of us getting it done. So we'll be doing, this should be going in the winter, I believe is the intention, but we'll find out with the
As much as can be done here in the fall and then start as soon after winter as possible. So.
yeah, so we'll get it
Can I
done.
ask one question? The increases, people may be curious as to why there was the increase in the bid.
A couple things occurred. We removed, if you recall, we removed the water, the actual purchase of the
Pipe.
infrastructure and the pipe
Mhm.
separate out from this. And in addition, did some modifications in order to know that we could secure a good bid. And the bid came in at just around a little over $100,000 over the engineer's estimate, which is why we're able to award it if this action is taken this evening. Just like the mayor said, it's complicated, needed more money.
And we had put constraints, trying to keep the road open. Technically, the easiest thing to do is, we had the same thing when we were doing the bridge across the Hocking River.
Right.
The decision is to leave it open or close it down. Close it down is much cheaper, but the impact, of course, to the citizens, it's another matter entirely.
Businesses.
So, you have to balance those things and see what, and this is what we came up with as best we can.
The most
It's a
recent bid.
good question. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, again, the rules have been suspended, and now we're going to vote on accepting ordinance 7914. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, the ordinance is accepted. Ordinance 8014, an ordinance amending the 2014 staffing levels authorized by ordinance O-14613 and declaring an emergency. Member Nisley again.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to suspend ordinance 8014.
Second.
And the purpose for this being is that there is currently a need in the law director's office, and especially with the internship position vacated, it's for us to be able to meet the workflow needs of the city.
So we're asking to suspend the rules on ordinance 8014. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The rules have been suspended.
Thank you,
Member
Mr.
Nisley?
President. I move adoption of ordinance 8014.
Second?
And council members have before them a portion of the staffing ordinance, which describes the different positions. And if you will notice on that page, what we have indicated is that the law director's office will be moving from 3 prosecutor positions to 4. This is a temporary position, and that will be in effect for 6 months. And there are monies available, and we'll transfer additional monies into the TC 100s, which is the personnel line, as needed between now and the end of the year, if necessary.
And again, 6 months will take us into next year, and we'll be building a budget anyway for next year to include this. And it has to do with transition, I guess, back into.
And certainly, if necessary, we can identify some other areas of savings in terms of the 2015 budget, because this is something that I've committed to. One of the reasons we wanted to do this on a temporary basis was to make sure that we could do it in a net revenue neutral way, at least taking us through the time that I'll be leaving office there. Just to give you a very quick amount of background on this, again, the idea here is to create this temporary position. Typically, we ask for funding when creating a new position, but in this case, thanks to some money that we had in there from having an unfilled intern position, we currently have enough within our payroll lines to be able to cover the cost of this temporary position. The reason that I'd like to create this, aside from the fact that we just generally have enough work in the office to sustain that, we are one of the smallest offices in the city, 5 full-time employees, 3 of which are criminal prosecutors with very full dockets that are kind of responsible for handling the hundreds of criminal cases throughout the city. What we don't have is an attorney position that can really focus more on the civil side. Somebody who, what we would really need here is someone with a good deal of background and skill in research and writing, someone who can work with me on many of the issues facing the city, as well as someone who will be here during the transition and can work with the next law director as well, so that we have a little bit of continuity within the office. We've identified a candidate who's got, I've distributed his resume here, who has impeccable research and writing credentials. He comes with outstanding recommendations. He's a son of Athens and a graduate of Athens High School and Ohio University. Matt Ward is in the audience with us here this evening, and is raring to go, and we could certainly use him. So I think, again, for both, one issue in particular, just as kind of an example, I don't want to get too far down this road of speculating where this may go legally, but I can say with some level of confidence that that when the Ohio Supreme Court hands down their ruling in the Monroe Falls case, which is the fracking case, which is going to outline municipal exactly what authority municipalities have to regulate in or near this area, that especially in conjunction with the fact that I think we're probably fairly likely to pass a ban here on the ballot in Athens this fall, that regardless of how that all shakes out, there will be a number of legal ramifications. There will be no shortage of work associated with that, and so I'd like to have someone who can really work with me. This is something that certainly I'm focused on every day, but that will also have some continuity to work with the next law director. I've got about 5 months left in this position, and once I transition out of this, unlike if I were just going to another attorney position, by taking a seat on the bench, I will actually it would not be appropriate for me to work with my successor to answer questions, to help kind of show where we were headed, what our strategies were, and so we really need to have someone who is focused on issues like this, and that will also be there for a time after I leave office. So we're excited about it, and I think this is really an issue where kind of, where they say that the ounce of prevention is worth more than the pound of cure. I think this is one of those situations. So thank you.
Good, thanks.
Hey, the rules for ordinance 8014 have been suspended. All those in favor of accepting the ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ordinance is adopted. Congratulations. Thank you. Moving on, to ordinance 8114, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of road salt for the street department and softening salt for the water treatment plant, and declaring an emergency. Member Patterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is this something that we need to suspend, or?
As long as we have the emergency clause, I think.
Then we're
we'd be all
fine.
right for putting it out to bid.
Well, this ordinance, as was mentioned earlier, this ordinance is for the authorization to put out bids, advertise and put out bids for salt, for both road salt and for the softening salt for the water treatment plant, and also to authorize the expenditure of $280,000 coming out of two funds, one out of the water fund, which is 740 TC 200, and that would be for $200,000. And then for $80,000 coming from the street fund, 220 for the road salt. It's that time of year again to start planning ahead.
I have a question. How much salt are we getting?
Depends on the bids, it has to go out. Depend on what the bids are out there.
I mean, don't we have an idea of how much salt we're going to need next winter?
Well,
Depends on
anything
the
like
winter.
last winter. Our salt bin is full right now, and this is in order to go out and get bids and pricing and purchase it in 2015.
Okay.
To lock it in.
So roughly, how much is it? Again,
Oh, I don't
how
know
much?
tons.
Salt?
I can tell you,
100,000 tons?
I can
20,000?
tell you last year we were getting a rate of around $58 per ton.
Okay.
Price has doubled.
The price is
It's all
double.
market-based, correct,
It
is what
is.
you're saying. So we're talking about not knowing a firm tonnage based upon what the market is with the expenditure of $280,000.
I can get you the details, though, by the next meeting, so you know what we expended, how much we purchased, and give you a little bit of history.
Just a thought off the top of my head. Wouldn't it be better if we put this out in spring when there's not this like rush? I mean, it's like kind of high season to buy salt.
It's September. Well,
Well, I know, but if we have it's just for future, it's like buying.
It's not going to spoil.
I will
Right.
just share
Well,
with you
it
that
might actually, it may leach, but
That's why you have bins.
I mean, the thing is it's like buying home heating oil. The worst time to do it is, 2 days before a huge storm. So I just.
again, in the past, we had been able to, like, piggyback on the county. We missed, and I won't speak for the county, the window of being able to go on the state bid that was indeed in March or April of this year. So it will hurt us for a year, but we will be aligned for the future. This is
But I heard on the radio that the state is also looking at exorbitant amount for their,
So the state bid will not change that much.
right. So,
And last year, we didn't go to bid because we were able to extend the cost from the previous year without any.
I mean, and we may not need any salt next year. I mean, it's just,
We purchase it as needed. We don't,
Right. and you don't want to be caught out.
the good news is the salt bin is full. We
And the
purchased
goodness
as much as we could and pushed as much as we could in there into spring, so
If
we're
you
ready.
say that prices doubled, does that indicate that there's just one or two people who sell, corporations that sell this
Usually
salt?
You get
two come to, Cargill and Morton usually come to the table.
So that's it.
Most of it's coming, I think, out of Cleveland underneath the river, isn't it?
And we had an offer from someone in New Jersey, I want to say last year.
I know the world's not running out of salt. There's no shortage of it. It's the most common mineral on the face of the earth.
Almost common, I think. Isn't it?
What would be next? Water?
I thought aluminum was 1/5 the earth.
Yeah, but aluminum's an element, not a compound.
Oh, you're talking about compounds, okay. Well, yeah.
Anyway.
The scientists.
How about water?
That's a compound.
He did say that. He said, what about water?
We can
Do
go back
we
to
want to
using
discuss
acid.
water worse, though?
But again, it depends on availability. I know there was constraints 3 years ago, we had a bump up in the price. And again, it fluxes depending on what they dig out and how much preparation everybody else does too.
Right. That's the free market.
Yep. And again, we're not trying to get a bid in December, okay? So
Yeah.
you have to look at
And
that.
we're not going back to coal slag or whatever we were using
No
before.
cinders?
We're not
Right.
doing
Full
cinders.
ash?
Bottom.
Fly ash?
No, bottom ash, I think it was.
Bottom ash.
Fly ash is
No,
the
we are
toxic.
not.
No.
So let me ask, since this is kind of an educational moment, for the water treatment, for the water softener salt and the road salt, are they the same quality of salt? Or are we talking about two different variations of salt coming from a single bid?
that it'll be interesting to see what we do get. The water softening salt has a few more specifications in terms of the bidding, but
And the purity.
And its quality.
Yeah, quality as
You
well
have
as
to
I think
send
the
a
aggregate
sample.
size. But again, there's quite a bit of overlap because it's all salt. But when you put it out there, actually I've been in this sitting in the bid, and they come with a little packet of salt. And, Crystal used to look at it and say, "Are there particles in there that we don't want?" And they take it to the lab and look at it. So
We can just get
It's good.
yeah.
those brine trucks out
Yeah. Good idea. Suggest that.
Do we have it?
there. No, we're
Suggestion
just making
No.
snarky comments
Okay.
About brine trucks.
about brine
no,
trucks.
it is true that Andy really is looking into seeing whether or not, he can come up with a methodology to utilize our brine from the brine lagoon.
But not that kind of brine. There's different types of brine.
Yeah.
I mean, from the
Right.
salt.
Right.
Yeah,
The
let's
water
keep-
softening
keep
salt
these
goes
separate.
into our brine lagoon, and we'll see.
Which we have control over.
Yes.
And we know what's in it. It's not glowing.
We have a resolution for second reading, R1114. A resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. Member Nisley, do you remember this one?
I do, and we have one more, we'll have one more reading on it.
Yes.
Yes.
But can you just bring it back to our memory, please?
Sure. It's a process, and we're notified each year by our county auditor about setting our rates for our taxes. And that's done by a county budget commission. And then they send the abstracts to the Ohio Department of Taxation, and then they notify us, and then the city needs to pass a resolution saying we accept the rates. Do I have that
And do we have the
basic
rates?
process?
Do we have that information?
And we do have the rates for the Athens, the city or the village.
This is the second reading, so this, the mayor was smart and brought his previous agenda, so that information is in there. Our inside millage hasn't changed in quite a few years. It's been 2.6 for the Athens Township and 2.4 for our little part of Canaan Township. The total amount of estimated inside millage is $826,000. That's money we receive from property taxes within the city limits.
And if I understand, if we didn't do this, we wouldn't receive it.
Right.
So the idea is to
Have this official
sure we get it.
resolution by council on the record
Right.
for them to collect our money
And we will
and
do
pass
that.
it along.
In 2 weeks.
I'd like
Yeah.
to point out that the property tax amounts for the city is very small compared to like our income tax
yes.
receipts, because Athens is a little different than a lot of other communities where most of our general fund and other dedicated funds, fire and police, comes from our income tax, not necessarily our property tax. The county and the school gets the majority of that.
Yeah, as far as property tax, and I think, as you mentioned, we have a lot of non-taxable property, tax plots in the city that that don't pay income tax, or pay property taxes, so.
You're referencing Ohio University, any other
Churches,
state entity?
Ohio University,
Churches, yeah.
county.
Churches.
The county?
County buildings,
City buildings.
Yeah.
Right.
Some city buildings, for instance, parking garage, since it's a money-making operation, is taxed.
right, city hall, police department, things like that. So yes, and in comparison to our income tax revenue, which is over $10 million, where we make our money to operate on.
So you're saying the majority of our property tax within the city of Athens goes to the county?
No.
No,
That's the city.
County property.
a lot of properties within the city don't have to pay property tax.
But if you're talking about the portion within this, of
I'm
anybody's,
talking about my house.
your house
Okay.
goes to schools.
It goes to
outside
schools.
millage.
Oh, right.
But my point I'm trying to get to is the fact that tax revenue, most of it is not going into the city coffers, it's going into the county coffers. Is that
And the
correct?
school- Yes.
And
Okay.
the school district.
School
Well,
system.
passed along to the school district,
Right.
right?
Was it- Yeah, somewhere around 75%, isn't it? I forget.
70%, I
70,
believe.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on. Do we have a motion to accept the auditor's July 2014 financial reports?
So,
second.
Second. Okay. Auditor, do you want to say anything before we vote?
No, but thank you for remembering this, since I
Okay.
haven't been here for a month.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting the auditor's report from July 2014 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same signal, Nobody? Okay. We have accepted it. We also have two more requests for liquor permits. Both of these are from Ohio University. One would be in the Convocation Center during basketball season. One would be at Peden Stadium during the football season. And we have a letter of support from Director of Athletics, Jim Schaus, regarding that. And so we will be voting on that next week, 2 weeks.
Well, are you asking for a hearing or no? What's the timetable now?
No, there's no,
We don't.
we're not asking for a hearing, so I guess
Okay.
we don't actually say.
Well, are we or not?
This will be put in the minutes, the letter from,
Yes.
and it's not a general, just selling beer in the Convocation Center and the Peden Stadium to everybody. So I think
No,
that's
we-
important to know.
All members have
Right.
copies, and we will have a copy in the minutes. So if anybody needs to see them, you can do that. Member Patterson?
I too have a motion. As you may all recall, we allowed for the addition of two more people on the Commission on Disabilities. So I've got 4 nominations, 2 replacement, and then 2 new seated members on the Commission on Disabilities. The first person I have on my list is Mike Pletcher. Mike Pletcher has served in the human service as a human service professional in chemical dependency for a number of years here in Athens. He came forward and asked to become a voting member on the Commission on Disabilities. Dr. Mary Alice Turner, who is the Director of Education at the Beacon School, reached out shortly after hearing about the ordinance when it was, I think, in its first reading. She came forward and asked to be a member as well. Mrs. has also been involved in HeartWorks as a counselor over at Oblenus Hospital, and also a guardian through the Athens County Court of Common Pleas. She's been a very active member on some other Ohio University disabilities bodies that are working through the university. And then finally, an undergraduate student, Rebecca Darling, who is a senior this year, reached out to me and said she'd be interested in serving on the Commission on Disabilities as well. She's kind of a stellar student. High school GPA was 5.0. Her OU GPA is 3.9 something. It's off the charts. Anyway, she is a student working on her bachelor's degree, Bachelor of Science degree in education, with a minor in communication studies or communication sciences and disorders. And she is very much wanting to serve on the commission as well. So given that, I would like to make a motion to appoint these 4 new members, Mike Pletcher, Rebecca Darling, Dr. Mary Alice Turner, and Ms. Paige Strett onto the Commission on Disabilities.
I would like to point out that their resumes are quite extensive and impressive, and I think they'll provide a lot of energy for the Disabilities Commission and able to kick it up a notch, so to speak.
Even the chair's very edited resume was impressive. So, any comments, questions?
Do you need a second?
Yes.
I'll second, and appreciate the volunteering once again to make our city work. It's the sort of thing that we appreciate.
All those in favor of accepting these appointments to the Commission on Disabilities signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same signal. They are adopted. And we thank them already for their service. Member Patterson?
If I may, Mr. President, I have one more communication that probably should have come forward during
sorry.
announcements.
Go ahead.
But if I may, On September 24th, I believe it is, we have a seasonal employee here in the city whose term will be ending, an individual living with a developmental disability who's been working through Arts, Parks, and Recreation, and one of the first in the city of Athens, at least in a long time. And so I just want to give a shout out to Tommy, the great work that he's done. My reason for bringing it up is this is another example of an individual working within their own limitations, yet from my conversations with him, a representative, Debbie Phillips, spoke with him last week and asked him about his job and asked him how he liked doing what he was doing. I met Tommy when Tommy first started working, actually when he was first looking for a job back in February. And for me to see Tommy's demeanor completely change to where he feels like he has a sense of purpose, pride in what he's doing, working in the city parks in a number of different capacities under Rich Campitelli's guidance and others down at Arts, Parks, and Recreation. I understand that, but I just want to make that known that that this individual's life has been, I think, significantly altered in a very fulfilling way by being able to be employed, gainfully employed by the city of Athens, and it's going to be sad to see him have to finish this term, but hopefully we'll be able to get Tommy back next year or something. We'll see how it goes, but I just want that known.
Thank you. Anything else, council members?
Committees?
Do we have an opportunity for citizens who would like to? Oh, citizens have an opportunity in a moment. We need to schedule council committee meetings for next week. Those committees that would like to have a meeting. Planning and Development. Wait a second. Yes.
Safety Services.
Safety Services.
Transportation.
Transportation.
Let's do them all.
And finance and personnel.
Oh, okay. We left somebody.
I'm going to be absent.
That's good, isn't it?
Excuse me?
Where are your poker face on
no.
that one?
Unless you-
Okay, so we will be full of committee meetings next week.
Yes,
There we go.
Okay, and so now, citizens have an opportunity to speak on legislative items and city services that have not been covered so far. Okay. Not hearing any, we will adjourn. It is now 7:49. Thank you all.